Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Gavin Courtney.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
Almost Friday.
Almost Friday and still a bit damp outside.
I know. So
yay.
I was hoping for more good news for where the weather's concerned, but we'll see.
Yeah. I gotta say though, you know, as much as it is because it rains in the mornings and in the evenings. At night, it's fine. I mean, if you're sleeping already, it's or ready for bed, it's fine.
Oh yeah, if only we could just get it just in the night.
But of course, we're going to tell you what you're going to expect for today, and go ahead and read that prepared forecast. So our general situation is for a moderate northeasterly airflow to prevail over areas supporting relatively moist conditions.
Yeah. And for our 24-hour forecast, we are expecting it to be cloudy at times with some showers or some periods of rain scattered over most places today. And there's also a possibility of some isolated thunderstorms tonight.
All right. And so our winds. They'll be moving from the east to the northeast at 10 to 20 knots. And the sea state will be moderate to rough. There is a small craft caution that remains in effect for occasionally rough seas.
Yeah. And for our temperatures, the high temperatures we're looking at today are going to be over the coast. We've got a high of 82, inland 84, and up in the hills we are expecting a high of 78. And the lows tonight are going to be 78 on the coast, 72 inland, and nice and cool, 66 degrees up in the hills.
All right. For Friday and Friday night, it is for mostly cloudy skies with some showers, periods of rain, and isolated thunderstorms. And we want to thank forecaster Crystal Rosales for preparing this update. So it seems that we will continue to get showers.
Yep.
The good part is that you do get sun during the day. So it's not rain all day. You just want to be prepared in the instance that you get caught somewhere and it starts to pour.
Yeah, I know.
It just happens like that. The cloud comes in and it's like shower.
Yeah, there's nothing to prepare you. But sometimes that's fun too. Once you're in bed, right?
All right, so we're going to keep things moving this morning, and it is time for a bit of motivation. And our eye-opener for today, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. Being open-minded means that we are willing to question everything, including those things we take for granted. A lot of people feel threatened if they feel they're being asked to question their cherished beliefs or their perception of reality. Yet questioning is what keeps our minds supple and strong. Simply settling on one way of seeing things and refusing to be open to other possibilities makes the mind rigid and generally creates a restrictive and uncomfortable atmosphere. A willingness to question everything, even things we are sure we are right about, can shake us out of complacency and reinvigorate our minds, opening us up to understanding people and perspectives that were alien to us before. This alone is good reason to remain inquisitive, no matter how much experience we have or how old we get. Just so, a commitment to staying open and inquisitive in our own individual lives can lead us to new personal revolutions and truths. Truths that we will hopefully, for the sake of our growth, remain open to questioning.
I love that message.
Me too.
Yeah. Definitely, that's something that I try to live by.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1000%. And especially when it comes to things that sort of everybody accepts and takes for granted almost.
Yeah.
I always try to question it, even if it's, you know, you have sacred cows and stuff that that maybe are dangerous or controversial topics.
Yeah.
But I always, the mindset I always take is that you have to wonder why things are just accepted point blank.
Yeah.
So you have, so I always wonder, like, all right, well, if this has come to be such a big thing, let me question why, you know, because there's always different perspectives and there's always different ways you can think about things and do things. So, and then there's always ways to improve,
Yeah.
which is really my big thing,
Yeah.
and progress. So I think with that, you have to question stuff and you have to be open-minded to change.
Absolutely. You know, my mind just immediately goes back to young children at that age where they ask you so many questions, and I love it and I hate it because it's fascinating to see how children, in trying to discover the world that they're born in, ask questions about things that we just take for granted. It's frustrating when you reach that point where you're just literally like, okay, enough questions, but usually it takes you back to a point where you don't even know. You know, that's when you're tempted to just say, because that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And so I think I use that as an example, and I'm sure many parents go through that on a regular basis. Because it shows us that there are a lot of questions that we don't ask.
Yeah.
We come to a certain level of acceptance that this is just the way things are. That's the way it's always been. It's been tried and it failed. And you know, to a certain extent, that's why we value experience, but it doesn't mean that you hold on to it with such a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
Questioning things and being able to be comfortable enough to say, I don't know. Man, that's a tough one. I don't know where, it was never in school,
No.
but somehow in adulthood, people start to develop that. You know, that's part of why I love what we do, because we're always asking questions. We're always learning more. There's always some aspect of some issue that we have not known before that we get to unveil right here on the show. And it's a part of the process of discovery and learning new things that we hope our viewers are able to appreciate. And, you know, I think it's a lesson itself. That's why people watch when you do interviews.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think, you know, when it comes to that whole being comfortable, I mean, I guess I am one of those people who's like not comfortable with the I don't know part. So I don't never leave it there. So like I'm like a compulsive Googler.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I do it every time. I'm
You
always on my
are
phone.
of the generation.
Yeah, absolutely. Because and it's for that reason.
Yeah.
Because if I have a question, I need to reach a satisfactory point.
Yeah.
So where I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
So you know, if somebody tells me something or if I read something, I don't just accept it just like that.
Yeah.
And this is something that I'm always telling, like, especially like older people in my family and stuff. I'm like, you can't just see if somebody sends you an article or a WhatsApp, one of those chain messages, you can't just think it's true.
Yeah.
Automatically. You have to, you know, do some research or question it, and think. But what if somebody's telling you something that you've never heard before, or that sounds, you know, completely outrageous? Why just accept it? Why not just think about, you know, doing some research?
Just check.
Yeah.
Just check. Yeah.
Fact check,
No,
yeah.
I completely agree with you. And I think that I don't know, saying I don't know is the first step.
Yep.
And it is a hard one for a lot of people. Just say, yeah, I know. Before you even finish the sentence. And the second step for a lot of people, and especially people who are naturally curious, is finding out as best as you can. Sometimes you don't get the answers you want. That just gives you more questions. But the point is, encourage curiosity. Encourage curiosity in yourself, in others, and especially in your little ones growing up. That's the way they are going to be parts of the change that we want to see in so many aspects of our community and our lives, because they just won't accept things because that's the way it's always been.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, it's important for progress, because oftentimes you find out where problems are, how you can make things better if you do question them. You know, if you just have this, you mean this is working well, but you know, maybe this aspect isn't right, or maybe why? Okay, but maybe this is helping. You know, this amount of people, but it's not helping all or a bigger amount. How can we make it? You know, so that for sure is what I think comes with being open-minded and being inquisitive.
One of the things of recent, and I have to say I'm happy to hear it, that the Commissioner of Police said that they will move to remove the W from the WPC.
yeah.
And I
See?
remember last year being at a women's conference for the female members of the police department and asking the very same question. Why do you have to say WPC? Your rank is constable, you're a police constable. Why do you have to differentiate as woman or male? It didn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm sure there's a reason when we dig back, but clearly it shows how there's a practice that's established that perhaps had a purpose at one point where women needed to be differentiated from men, but no longer is relevant. But until people start to question it,
for sure,
then you can see things equaling out. So there you go. Question away. Encourage your kids to do it as well.
For sure.
And speaking of questions, today's morning tea. Well, you know what we do here. We just try to get some conversation started. If you're sitting at home and you want to talk with the family, need a topic to bring up at work, here's one that you can tackle.
So, 2 press conferences were held yesterday, and they were talking about allegations of corruption, which, have been bubbling at the forefront of people's minds lately. So our question really for discussion this morning is, have we as a nation grown apathetic to the idea of good governance? And have we come to expect and accept corruption as part of politics? Hot button issue. What's your take, Marlene?
This tea is stirring up.
Right?
Well, I think the eye-opener is very fitting in talking about this topic. And I have to say that based on feedback that I see a lot of times, and especially online, we have come to accept it. We have come to see it as status quo. We don't like it, but it's almost a sense of helplessness. This is the way it always is. One party is like the other, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You hear that all the time. And I think it is something that we have seen politicians use quite effectively in keeping us by being able to go back into the past. So it's like anytime I get caught, I say, well, Gavin did this yesterday. And then Gavin comes back with, yeah, you're doing it now. And we never move past it. We never move past, because we're so caught up in trying to figure out what Gavin did yesterday, what happened to Gavin, and we don't even try to figure out or get to the point where you can just say enough is enough. It doesn't matter who, what, when it happened, just let's put a practice in place that we're gonna change it. And we're not there.
I know, I agree. And I think, like you say, I think we do. I mean, if we go back to the question itself, I think it's expected now, almost nowadays. And I think in almost any political system where, well, I think there is corruption. And it's just in what form it takes, and to what degree it is occurring. Because if we compare like what happens here to the different parts of the world, I mean, it's the same thing, but with a different mask.
Different degrees, though.
Different, and different degrees in the in the way that or the effects of it. Let me say. Because I take for example, if I look at the country of the U.S., whenever I hear about lobbyists and lobbying in politics, that always seems to me like institutionalized corruption, because you have special interest groups outwardly swaying political policy with money. So, which seems to be the same thing that happens here, but it's just under the table type stuff. And then the effects end up being the same, because special interests do get served politically when people do get the little man or other people get crossed out or disenfranchised in some way. And it's really unfortunate, but I think the system itself lends it to that, because, at the end of the day, if political parties, they need financing and they need ways to want to get into power. And if you're in a democratic system, I mean, the success is measured by winning the election rather than, your track record. So how do you win elections? Money. So that is what lends itself to the corruption.
Yeah,
But-
and I think one of the things you hear from people who are seasoned in politics, especially, is, oh, no country is free of corruption. That's true, and there are always. It's just like not all people have the best intention. You have your bad eggs. It is what it is. But I think there's a difference, and when I said degree, it's looking at how brazen it can be sometimes. It's just like in your face, and so what? I think it's looking at the disparities that it causes and the context that it is. When you see in Belize, for example, where we have so many people struggling, and I mean struggling. Dara's feeding program that's been in the news of recent shows, that there are children who need to be able to access food on a daily basis, and he just stepped up to provide it. And then you have others who are just amassing this immense wealth with questionable practices. It doesn't mean it wasn't deserving, but if you still have questions about legitimacy of processes, then you can't say that it is legitimate. So I think that's a big difference. And you're right, where people just, we expect it from politicians now.
And I think, there are ways to combat, I think, the corruption that does occur here.
Yeah.
The most obvious one to me being, more transparency. And I mean, like, really, when you're, giving public contracts and anything where tax money is involved, I think should more or less be open to the public scrutiny. I don't see why you shouldn't be able to, so that there can be a paper trail, so you can follow where if and there's corruption, and then also let there be consequences and let there be penalties, whether it's fines, whether it's criminalizing certain acts. It can be combated, especially in such a small country that we have. But the thing is, with that type of a beast, it's like, because it serves the people who are in power.
And the people in power make the decisions.
Yeah, so it's not gonna, it's difficult to combat in that sense.
Well, and I think, going back to what we said in the eye-opener, asking questions is a start, and there's a power in numbers, and there's a power that you have when you vote, and there's a power when you speak up and speak out and speak loud, especially for different groups. We've seen it be effective before in organizations and coalitions that kind of push for a cause. So it's not that people are completely helpless. I think we just kind of feel that way because there's no unity for that cause.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting if you look at a lot of politics around the world nowadays.
My gosh.
We're kind of in it's very like in a political upheaval in so many countries because of the same thing, that corruption and the things it brings, income inequality and stuff. So you take a country like Chile last year that had those huge protests over corruption. So many parts of Latin America, parts of Asia as well. Hong Kong was.
Ecuador, I mean, it was just all over.
And
Lebanon,
the Middle East
which really broke a lot of traditions, even in having different religious groups coming out. So I think that there's a breeze of change. It's not as strong, and I think their examples show that it takes a lot of tenacity, because some of these protests are going for months and months and months, through season changes, through some of the political changes, but just not enough, and they don't give up.
Yeah, and it's that, and also realizing the power, as you just said, of numbers and the unity behind, achieving a goal. And if it's going to be, we don't want there to be, the political system to, let's say, favor, business interests so much to the point where, all these rich people are the ones who are benefiting from, politically, where when you have, a whole huge amount of people who, don't have that same, who are, don't have the, let's say, same level of income, and with that, you don't have access to you don't have access to better education, you don't have access to better, other social services just because you're poor. And the reason that that system keeps being fed is because of the corruption. And now, I think our eyes are opening more. I think people are getting more educated, and I think the internet itself has been a huge push because people spread information like that.
Yeah.
So, at the first whiff of something wrong, you can get a message out there, and it's really powerful.
Hey, we do have some feedback online. Of course, Dion Flowers is saying we can't accept it either because we do have a great country, and I can completely agree with that. We do expect it, but it doesn't mean we have to accept it.
Yeah.
Right? But that's it for our morning tea. We really stirred it up. I think the cup is overflowing. But, start these types of conversations. Start it in your home, start it in your workplace, see what the different opinions are on this issue. And if you want to share it with us, share it on Facebook and on Instagram. But we got to get moving into our show.
Yeah. So we've got a pretty interesting lineup today. For our first conversation, we're going to be speaking with the Ministry of Human Development about ways to protect children. We've still been having that conversation a lot recently.
Yes, absolutely, and still very relevant. The second part of our show, the foodie tour continues. And this time we're moving into some sweets. We're going to be talking about Pixie Fairy cupcakes.
And finally, we are going to be talking to Ian Anderson's Cave Branch, and we are speaking about some really exciting Belizean specials that they are going to be promoting. So yeah, you heard that, Belizean specials.
Yeah. All right, so that's what we got in store for today. Before we go to that break, it's time for that birthday shout out.
Yeah, so from all of us here at Open Your Eyes and at Channel 5, we want to wish an extremely happy birthday to Elma Arzu. So hope you have a wonderful day and happy birthday again.
Yes. All right, we'll take that break and we'll be back in a few. Stay tuned.
With over 100 years of service excellence in Belize, the Belize Bank
And we are back. Joining us for our first segment is, Margaret Nichols, who is the Executive Director for the National Committee for Families and Children, and Leanne Arthurs, who is the Director of the Department of Human Services. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, good morning.
So we are continuing our conversation about protecting children, which I'm sure has been in the forefront of everybody's mind, you know, since the tragic events of last week. So I think perhaps we can start off our conversation talking about, I guess, just a little bit of your reaction to these tragic events. And whenever I suppose something tragic like that happens, what's the first thing that you think of?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, well, good morning again. For us in child protection, the reality of child abuse is our daily reality. Our social workers work day and night in terms of responding to different challenges that children are going through in this country. But when you get a call of a nature like this, that a child has died at the hands of somebody who should be their protector, it does hit you and send shivers through you. And you right away realize that it affects you because the very nature of this life is to thrive. Our children should be in environments, excuse me, where they are able to thrive, they're able to realize their potential, so that they can be children. Mm-hmm. And to face the reality of the extreme severity of the corporal punishment that these children went through, the abuse that they went through, is that you go through the very same grief and loss process of denial first, that this can't be real. Then you go through anger, how could this happen? And I see that happening even in terms of our community's yes. reaction to this. But I also think it brings us back to a sharp reality that our children are facing extreme difficulties. Yeah. And as a community, we cannot turn a blind eye to the things that we're observing, because our children live in our communities. And so people are hearing, people are observing, and that we have to take stock of what is our response and what is our responsibility as a community to support, but also to hold accountable those parents who may be failing to provide adequate care and protection for their children.
Yeah. Initial reactions?
Well, NCFC, we, as you know, are mandated to ensure the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Yeah. And according to Article 6, a child has a right to be just to be alive. And so for us, it was extremely tragic. And I think what really and truly hit hard was the fact that how many more children are in this kind of situation. Because for me, because these things are happening behind closed doors. And for me, also for us, the difficulty is, why are people not reporting these incidences? Why is it that we feel that if a child gets one hit, it is okay, and that it may not continue? Because when you listen to the press releases and so on and so forth, the family knew and others knew that this was happening, no? And so for me, it was really and truly for us to figure out, what can we do to ensure that people are reporting when these things happen? Because I think that while we love our loved ones and so on and so forth, a child is young, vulnerable, innocent, and we have a duty of care. And just after celebrating the CRC at 30, and when we look at a number of the strategies that we have in place in terms of the child protection strategy to end violence against children, the fact that the National Women's Commission is working towards ending violence against our children, and then when we go back to the mixed statistics which shows that such a wide percentage of our children are being abused. And so the stark reality is that how much more are being abused? And so I believe that there has to be a different way of how we monitor these situations. I know one of the things that we have in our strategy is to look at how do we ban punishments in homes. And I know that is going to be a difficult area because even when we talk about child rights, people get sometimes upset. But notwithstanding that, children have rights. And so for me, I believe that we just have to continue to do what we are doing and more than we are doing to ensure that our children are in a better place. Yeah. So that was how it affected us.
Yeah. It's go ahead.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask, based on something that you said just now, just to, I guess, kickstart the conversation, I want to know, how exactly do we define child abuse? And again, and I think you also mentioned in terms of percentages, and like how much are we, in terms of statistics, do we measure it, and how much, what are the numbers like in Belize?
Mrs. Otters would be able to.
Your first question
What is
sorry.
child abuse?
How do we define it? But,
Okay. So the Family and Children's Act does give us the definition of child abuse, and it's a very broad definition which talks about the infliction of harm to a child in relation to physical, sexual, emotional harm. It talks about neglect and the ill treatment of children. And so we then categorize it in that way in terms of the reports that we get. We also categorize commercial sexual exploitation of children as well, and trafficking of children. The data, it goes up and down through the years if we look at a trend for the past 10 years. But where we've seen consistency is in terms of the allegations of neglect being the most reported form of child abuse. And then we're now seeing that sexual abuse is the second highest reported form of abuse. Like maybe 10 years ago, it was physical abuse. But definitely the sexual abuse is now at second place. The total for 2018, I think I gave a slide, so maybe they will show it in terms of the presentation, in terms of the exact figure. But it was around 1,300 countrywide. Majority of the cases are being seen in Belize City. Of course, it's our biggest urban area, the highest population. And if I remember correctly, after that, it was Cayo having the highest percentage, and then I think North, in terms of where we're seeing the different forms of abuse. Yeah, so they did show this slide.
Cases, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so if you look at those numbers, you see neglect and abandonment at 575, followed by sexual abuse.
So 1,300 cases in 1 year. I sometimes I like the numbers game because it helps me to put things into perspective.
Yes.
How many social workers do you have deployed across the
We
country?
have, in terms of child protection,
child
we
protection.
have 13 in Belize City, and we have 1 per district, and 1 in San Pedro.
So that's less than 20. And you had 1,300 reports.
Yes.
So that's 1,300 families.
Yes.
And you have less than 20 people to be
to
able
respond.
to respond. And it's a very detailed
Yes,
and
in terms of
prolonged process.
the child protection process.
Because you don't go in once, you're supposed to go in multiple times and check and make sure.
Yes. So
How-
when they go in, and there is a slide that talks about the process, their first job is to find out if this is happening
True.
indeed.
Yeah.
So they have to consider the indicators of abuse. They have to do the preliminary interviews with the children, with the parents, with collaborative sources such as teachers, such as if it's neighbors, if it's other family members. So they have to do a thorough investigation to determine, is there abuse here? Now, where they find that there is abuse, they might have, we have 3 categorizations of findings. It could be unsubstantiated, meaning they go in and they don't see any indicators of abuse, the family seems to be functioning well, and so they will deem that unsubstantiated and close that case.
Okay.
They have cases where they go in and they see indicators of abuse, but maybe they can't fully prove it, but they highly suspect. And so those cases we would still monitor in terms of checking to see what is happening. And then you have the substantiated cases where they find indicators of abuse, and there they begin to engage the parents to say, look, there's something wrong here. And we have to then determine who is hurting the child. Is it somebody within the home? Was it somebody outside the home? So that we can determine safety and risk to see if we can work with that child in that home with that family. So we then have to look at what are the support systems around this child, what are the parents' capacities, what are their reactions to our coming into their lives. And a lot of times the initial reaction is hostility. Because I believe for parents, as we've worked this, that there's a sense of embarrassment that, oh my goodness, I got a call, somebody reported me. So initially there's that anger of, I don't want you in my home, we're fine, stay out of my business. And so the skills of the social worker in terms of engagement, helping them to understand our role, that somebody was concerned enough to make a call. So let's talk about what's happening, you know, and what support you need, what help, what is happening.
Yeah.
Because if your child is being hurt and you're saying you're not the one who has hurt your child, who has hurt your child? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear everything you're saying, but I'm still stuck on this mission impossible of 20 social workers addressing 1,300 reports in 1 year alone.
Yes. And that doesn't include that we don't close all cases from the previous year. So we have cases carrying over. So we call those open cases. So you have your new referrals per day, and then you have an open caseload. So their caseloads range from 40 cases to 80 cases for one social worker. Best practice approaches internationally talks about 25 is a more manageable to do intensive
To make
work.
sure nothing slips through the cracks. Because
Exactly.
when you have a lot of work to do,
Yeah.
you can only dedicate so much of your time to each
Exactly.
thing. Now, this is it. I mean, I'm saying this, and it's not an excuse because it just shows a clear gap that has to be addressed. We can't keep on talking about
and as we
social
look
services
as we
if
look
you don't
at
have
the
people to give it.
reform of the system from the early years when all these legislations were put in place, the numbers were smaller, and we've seen steady growth of social workers. When I entered the system 24 years ago, we had what? 5? About 5 social workers for Belize City. And so you've seen that 5 grown to 13 because of the demand. And there's a constant recognition as we brainstorm improvements to the system that we have to continue looking at improvement of our human resources. We recently had an exercise with the Ministry of the Public Service where they came in to our ministry and looked at the whole demand and what are the human resources needs. And so they have verbally indicated that they've made some recommendations in terms of additional social workers for our district. The good thing with that, it gives us the platform for argument that as we ask for creation of new posts, that we're more likely to get an approval because they have recognized that there is a need for increased human resources.
We have an issue with abuse. Now, I want to step back just a bit because one of the things in your reflections at looking, because the entire community feels this loss. When it's children, naturally, our hearts are a lot more open to feeling and empathizing. And so we are going through the grief and loss process. And a part of that process is blame. And the blame, ladies, being put on organizations like where is Human Services, where is NCFC, where is Special Envoy, where is, and the list goes on and on and on and on. So I want to give you the opportunity to respond to that because in this isolated case, people are saying, how? How is this child or these children living in these conditions? How was no one aware of the atrocities that were taking place in that home? And you can respond to the blame that's being cast on you.
For us as Human Services, blame is not unique to this case. And I think you're well aware that there's a lot of expectation of us in terms of the whole system. When you look at the child protection system, it does not only encompass Human Services. It's a system of agencies, and we've talked about this in the past in terms of the different roles that the law has specified in terms of health, education, the police, the judiciary, roles of like NCFC, UNICEF, you know, all of us have a role to play in terms of protection of children. The family is a key part of the child protection system. For us, we recognize that there's a sense of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. We get criticized for any response because, like I told you, the initial reaction by families are stay out of my business. You know, I don't appreciate that anybody called. And so that's the first blame and backlash that we often get at that micro level. In terms of families taking that upset to the media, a lot of times we're bounded by confidentiality, that even though they have breached their own confidentiality by making their situation public, in the interest of all parties, we have to do an analysis of how do we respond.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we've looked at maybe we don't respond enough to educate people in terms of our role, but we have to navigate a careful balance to not expose the details of a family situation because of the implications on a child. Because when you place a child's information within the public domain, you can't erase that. And that child has to go back into communities. And we had a training with the media some time ago. We talked about when whispers become reality. But now this is not just whisper. This is national, international coverage of my life and of the difficult circumstance I'm going through. And so when that child now has to go back to school, and everybody watches news, even children, and those little children then say, oh, I see up on news and they say you get abused and you're and we don't think of the implications on that child. So we as an agency have to be responsible. That even though we would want to let people know exactly what that parent did to that child, and there they are saying that human service this, human service that, we would want to let the public know how they have failed to protect that child. We have to delicately balance that disclosure in the best interests of children. So a lot of times we take the blame and we're like, okay, we're the bad guys. Because people would question, why have you removed that child? We've gotten things like, they're only a poor family, and they're trying hard and they don't know the details of some of the breakdown in the family structure that's caused risk to children, why we had to intervene.
Or they're just disciplining them, they're not,
they're good parents. And society comes from that belief that parents do want to do what's best for their children. And we hear people say that in the conversation. That nobody wants to seriously hurt their child. There must be a monster in order to hurt children. But I'm telling you, that anger as an emotion is a very dangerous emotion. And when people get angry, there's no difference between me, you, and a parent who has abused a child if anger gets out of control. Because if you lose control, you hurt. And I think it was Jenny who said it earlier this week, hurt people hurt others. And so there's a thin line between a non-offending parent and an abusing parent. And so we have to sometimes face the reality of what happens in families in these situations. No?
Yeah.
Well, first at NCFC, I think it is always difficult to explain this creature. Because the NCFC is not an implementing body, but we are coordination, advocacy, and policy and legal reform. The NCFC will never be seen on the ground. However, we have a responsibility to ensure that, for instance, we continue to advocate for the Ministry of Human Development to be able to get more social workers. Because we have to continue to advocate for government to see the reality of the situation, that our human resources is one of the most important resources in this country. And so that when we look at our budget allocation, more funds are sent over to the Ministry of Human Development. Because we're actually losing more and more for our young, our vulnerable. And so that is the kind of responsibility that the NCFC has. Also to ensure that the laws are reformed and that they're more user-friendly, that in fact we have to also look at how we can also advocate for more enforcement of legislation.
Yeah.
Because I think that we have all these laws, but they're not being enforced. I believe that, as I said earlier, we looked at how we could ban punishment in homes, which we know that it's going to be a difficult something to undertake, but we also believe that parents seriously need to be held accountable. Because I believe that while we understand that they have some difficult situations and so on and so forth, I believe that if once the department or those who work closely with the families have done certain things, then it behooves us to ensure then that they're held accountable for things that they're doing to our children or to their own children. Because whereas I agree that when we're angry we do certain things, some of the things that are done to children seem almost intentional. You know, it might not be, but that is how it seemed. Because, for instance, there was a matter in Punta Gorda where the mother went out to do her shopping. By the time she got back, her child was molested. You know, and so I started to think, are we contemplating these things? You know, even when we enter into relationships, we enter into relationships for the good of whatever, but if we see signs that our partners are starting to look at our children and so on and so forth, we may have to find ways to get out of those relationships. So as parents, we must take on certain responsibilities. We must be very cognizant of what is going on with our children.
We have to pay attention.
We need to pay full attention. And the NCFC, this just drives to me that the NCFC has a lot more work to do in terms of the whole matter of advocacy and education. We have just recently held training for social workers and rovers and parent educators to help them to understand their roles and to be able to identify and work with these families.
Yeah.
We have also recently launched the parenting manual, but it says to me that the parenting manual has to go into rural areas, it has to go into communities. We have to find other ways. We're thinking about doing an app, we're thinking about all kinds of different ways to get the information out there, because while some people might say, oh, it's not never too late, because children are entering this world every day. And if we look at the ages of parents, we have some serious problems, because if we look at the whole issue of teenage pregnancy, if we look at the whole issue of early marriages and child unions and so on and so forth, we have some big problems to attend to. So as Mrs. Otter has said, it's supposed to be a holistic approach. It's not just human services, it's all of us.
Yeah.
I know in the area of domestic violence, the National Gender-Based Violence Committee on which I sit, we have just put together forms for people to be able to lay complaints where they see these things. But like the mandatory reporting regulation, like other regulations and laws, it's difficult to enforce them.
Yeah.
So I think what we have to look at now is to develop some kind of mechanism, some kind of monitoring mechanism that, and I'm trying, as I'm speaking to you, I'm trying to figure what, you know, to ensure that, you know, people are responding to these things, because, you know, they need to report.
You know, you said quite a bit, both of you have. And one of the things you said was, we have big problems. And I want to push that further. We have a lot of big problems, and especially when it comes to what's affecting our children. I hate to just use this example, but I think this example can be used in many circumstances. We see the issue of domestic violence here. We see the issue of poverty here. We see the issue of broken family structures here. And these are all very big things to be able to tackle. Any one agency and collectively as a community, we must try. But you know, education is very important. I agree. Awareness is important, but there's a sense that people will only seek enlightenment if they have the time to even contemplate it. I mean, if I have to worry about working 3 jobs, feeding the kids, I'm young, I still want my own life. I never never learned any parenting skills other than the ones that my parents showed me. Where and how will I get this information? How do we make steps towards being better and even make access into some of these families to start to get a movement of change?
Yeah. And that's why it's one by one adds to the whole. And we fully recognize that you have to look at a systemic approach to this issue.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons that you have a process like the Children's Agenda,
Yeah.
that all stakeholders were able to take stock of where we are as a country and what do we need to do to end violence
Yeah.
against our children. And we began that process with Nick, like what? It was, the Children's Agenda is now
3 years. It's going into 3 years.
Yeah.
and through that we were able to look at concrete actions by all stakeholders.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's a systemic approach and each of us has a responsibility to
Yeah.
add to kind of begin to peel back the layers of how do we address all of these issues. And I think for us, a lot of it is a lot of mindsets. And if, like you said, if you've never learned, how do you take somebody else there if you don't know for yourself? And so the whole concept of what it means to be healthy in terms of male, female, or couple relationship, it has to start there.
Yeah.
In terms of children don't just come, they come from some union. And is that union healthy? Has that union considered the implications of their union and what their union can produce?
Yeah.
And many times we see that they don't.
Yeah.
It's all about pleasure and temporary satisfaction without looking at
Consequences.
18 plus years.
Yeah.
Because even when they're 18, sometimes we don't let them go fully, no? Because we want to see them become the best adults that they can be. So we have to start there of how do we organize healthy? How do we organize healthy in terms of access? And you talked about that.
Yeah.
So if we're going to create a little family, we do have to consider spiritually where we are. We have to consider emotionally, are we mature to begin this family? Financially, do we have access to economic opportunities to build this family? And that's where all those layers come in. In terms, as a country, how are we providing those access to people? And think about that in terms of programming.
Yeah.
Even the government has this strategy in terms of how do we roll out some of these access
Yeah.
to our citizens as well, no?
I'm sure there must be, because what I hear from you, and I think anyone who really looks at the situation will see that there are different levels you have to work. You have
Yeah.
to work with the younger kids to make sure they're getting the fundamentals, the teens to somehow get them access to proper sexual and reproductive health information. Young mothers, pregnant, young parents, pregnant mothers, and even people who maybe come into a first contact with the social services. But what about interventional work? What we don't hear of very often is, okay, yes, we know we have a critical problem. Some will even call it a crisis. 1,300 cases is a lot.
Yeah.
That's 1,300 children and maybe multiple children in a household that are in.
Those are the reported cases.
And those are
Those are
reported.
reported.
Exactly.
Very valid point. Thank you for that. So they're in a situation where we don't know if they'll survive tomorrow. What are the interventions we can put in place?
Yeah.
And what is being advocated for? What do we need people to get serious about? Because the community is angry, but we need to funnel that somewhere
Yeah.
to move towards actionable changes.
And how do we all play a role?
Yes.
And I think Ms. Nicholas talked about some of the interventions already in terms of when we talked about changing mindsets
Yeah.
and we talk about education, it's just not academic. It's all about how do we form people's understanding of what is healthy. And one initiative is parenting.
Yes.
And as Ms. Nicholas said, in terms of formulating this revised parenting manual, that came with reorganizing organizations to have a discussion about what are we delivering, what is the content, and what are the messages
Yeah.
that we are sending to parents, and how are we equipping them in terms of their role
Yeah.
as parents to provide first care
Yeah.
for their children. And so the first thing that NCFC approached was, okay, agencies, what are you currently delivering? They had to do a stock taking of what are you currently delivering, who are you delivering to, because we had to then look at coverage,
Yeah.
you know, and how do we, as stakeholders, reorganize so that we don't have duplication and that we're not all going to the same places. Some of the discussions were that,
I didn't understand that.
oh my
Because we didn't ask you. But let's go ahead.
my apologies.
That's fine.
And so, yes, you know, they totally threw
You
me off
are
guard.
reorganizing and making sure that you're not duplicating efforts. Yes.
And so that as organization, we look at coverage, that this is a big problem.
Yeah.
But let's talk about where will you deliver, where will I deliver, so that we are able to find the most vulnerable families. Oh, I just got my thought back. It was that a lot of times we recognize that who really needs to come to these sessions often are not the ones who come.
Yeah.
And so when child protection intervenes, we have an opportunity with the court
Yeah.
to recommend parenting classes, and the court is able to put this on the court order, and we call it mandatory.
Okay, I was going to ask if it's recommend or mandatory. Yeah.
parenting. And so that's one population, but we have the larger population that will come because they see buy-in, they see the benefits of it.
Yeah.
And so our discussion is, how do we start earlier in terms of where is the captive audience of parents? And a lot of time it's through Ministry of Health. Before they become parents, and also when they're giving birth. So how do we start earlier rather than when they're intervening in child protection?
Yeah.
And so those are some of the strategies that we're trying to formulate when it comes to that one aspect of intervention.
Recently, I know there's been a release of a parenting manual, maybe about this thick, but very, very, very thorough. And the NCFC launched that manual. It's a great tool, but where is it being implemented? My question is, have we approached high schools? I think parents, maybe I am venturing to guess, if your child takes one less CXC, one less. I mean, you know, most of the kids are going to US universities anyway. One less CXC, and that class is dedicated to, let's say, a parenting class, and you teach them that manual. Have we looked to perhaps, because there's what we've always done, and I think maybe we're just at the point that we need to go new, innovative,
and think
different,
out of the box.
and perhaps challenge some of the ingrained systems that do exist, because as much as they like it, it hasn't been working.
Well, as a matter of fact, it is in some of the high schools, because we have approached the teaching community, and it is in some of the high schools. As I had said, I think in past shows, that the whole idea was to get it into the curriculum,
Yeah,
so that it becomes a part of the university's curriculum.
yeah,
Because the parent, like I was saying earlier, that we are looking every day at innovative ways
Yeah.
of trying to get it out there. I believe that we have to go to where people are, you know, and hence the reason why we brought in the parent educators, the rovers in Punta Gorda, and so on and so forth through the Ministry of Human Development, so that they will be able to get the information out there, because people will not necessarily come to where we are. So some of our interventions must be different. We have to go. In terms of the whole issue of early marriages and early unions, we're about to, on the 19th or so, we're about to launch the roadmap to also, again, to accelerate actions to end child marriage and early unions. And that is another intervention, another opportunity to not only to work with young people, but also to work with the churches and other persons who are marrying these children. Because notwithstanding the fact, and this is again where we go to legislation, notwithstanding the fact that we have a law that says that the child cannot be married with the permission of his parents when they're 16, we know of recent cases where children are 15 and they're being married. And they're being married by marriage officers. So it says to us
Justice
that...
of the peaces, that's what you mean? Church pastors,
No, I'm
what?
talking about pastors,
Okay.
right? So we realize that this is going to be another opportunity to work, because we have already sat down with them. We have had several validation sessions with them to help them to understand the whole issue of early marriages and early unions and the impact that it has on these young persons and the children that are coming into these relationships, you know. So really and truly there are several initiatives. There is the parenting guide, there is the child protection strategy. As a matter of fact, Monday we are meeting as the whole body to look at our work plan and to see what are not to see what are the interventions, but how the whole methodology of how we are going to move the interventions within the strategy. So that is one of the things that we'll be doing on Monday. So there's quite a lot going on, but I still believe, and I feel so strongly about it, that we need to look outside of the box. We need to get into communities. We probably need to bring more people to the table. Because one of the things that we plan to do again for this year, again, is to do stock taking. Because we have been bringing the agencies to the table to tell us what is it that you're doing for children. We have gone as far as to go to the different ministries to find out, so in your budget line, what is there for children? Because there is a children's agenda. So, Labor Department, what are we doing in terms of labor laws, and what are we doing with our children? In terms of education, in terms of health, the whole issue of, as you said, sexual reproductive health. We have everybody, and we will be doing that shortly again, stock taking, and to ask people to try and, you know, to be more innovative in whatever they're doing, and to see, which is sometimes a problem, NCFC as not only the secretariat, but that everybody who sits around that table is a member of the NCFC, hence that is why they're on the committee, and they have a responsibility to our families and children in this country.
And I just want to add in terms of the critical role of the community to help us. You know, we have different programs as children come into protective care. And the reality is that all the children that come into care cannot go back home. We have different permanency plans for children, and the first attempt is family preservation. How do we preserve the family? How do we support them in their caretaking role? But that does not always end up being what's best for children. And sometimes we do have to go to the court to show that it is not in this child's best interest to go back home because it will cause further harm to this child. And so then we have these children in care who feel disconnected. Sometimes our children say, we feel that we're the ones that have been put in jail, you know, because we end up in foster care or we end up in a residential care facility, you know, but our parents are still there, probably making more children, or they're partying, going to nightclubs, having a fine time. And then here we are, rejected, feeling abandoned. What's going to happen to us? And these are real questions that our children have. And so we have the task of helping them form connections and look at reconnecting with healthy, you know, adults and other peers. And some of them, we've gotten them to the point to come back to a place to dream again. Because when children have been abused and they've gone through trauma, a sense of hopelessness and helplessness sets in, that they can't see beyond today. And sometimes they begin to act out behaviorally because they're angry, because they're disappointed. They feel that adults have broken their trust, have failed them. And so they want, as we talk about hurt people, hurt others, they want to hurt back to let you know how I'm feeling, you know? And so when we're able to get these children to a place to dream again, to look at a future, to look at a potential connection with their community, they begin to advocate for themselves. And I think one of the serious strides we have made is to get these children to be aware of their rights, and they're aware to find their voice again. And as they begin to get older, they want the opportunities to connect with their community, and one of that is in jobs. We've had some employment opportunities in Belize City that they have really, you know, come to the table to say we will hire these young people for the summer, for Christmas. And I see so much potential there for a partnership with
Yeah.
the business sector in terms of giving and realizing that dream for these children, that they can do it.
Yeah.
You know, and one of these girls, she often comes to us at Human Services, like on her break or her lunch break, you know, and she'll come and she'll say, "Hi, Mrs. Daughters." She said, "I can't talk. I have to get back to work." You know, and it just brings a smile to your face. And those are the situations that, like, yes, you know, there are.
You're making impact.
We are making an impact, and we can if we work together. And that's what I talk about in terms of how each of us look at how can we help.
Yeah.
The whole issue of mentorship, when we talk about reestablishing healthy, there's so many skilled people in our country.
Yeah.
Some of them have walked these same walk that can give back. These young people need that type of mentorship and coaching to help them to look at, how do I implement this dream? How do I make this dream a reality? And you can help in that way as a form of intervention. These children are in your schools, these children might be in your workplaces, you know, these children might be in your aftercare program. And connection, and not taking for granted the power of connection, because that's what all of us as humans want, is to feel that we're connected and that we have a role, that we understand that we're not just here for nothing. We're here for a purpose to recognize what our giftings are and how do we give that back. And our children want the same thing.
Yeah.
I think another wonderful opportunity and another wonderful initiative is the Sustainable Municipality Child-Friendly Initiative, which is an initiative through UNICEF for which the NCFC has partnered with. And that gives an opportunity to work directly with young people and for young people to be able to work within their municipalities. One of the good thing about that program is that communities, municipalities will now be certified. In fact, the first certification has taken place where medals were being awarded, and they were silver and bronze, because nobody is at gold and platinum. But I think that it is to ensure that your municipality is child-friendly.
Yeah.
And so the strategic plans of that initiative has actually aligned with the children's agenda.
Yeah.
So the same goals and the same outcomes are the same goals and outcomes of the municipalities. And I think that there is an assessment team, and I believe that through this initiative, we should see places much better for children. I believe that the communities will be striving, the ministers, not the ministers, the mayors, because there is a mayor association.
Yes.
And I think that they will be striving for gold. And I think if they really strive for gold, I don't know, platinum eventually, but if we strive for gold, and it is in the best interest of our children, then I want us to continue to nurture that same initiative.
Yeah.
And so we can, as a matter of fact, we were supposed to meet again tomorrow. But of course that has been postponed to later on. But we at NCFC want to continue to work very closely with the CAPS, because these are all young persons. And there are young people who are saying to the mayors in their municipalities, this is what we need.
Yeah.
And it is about safety, it is about domestic violence, it's about parenting, it's about, as I said, the same issues that are under the children's agenda.
Yeah.
So that is going to help us with the municipalities as well. So there's quite a bit going on, notwithstanding the fact that we understand that a lot more needs to be done, and we cannot, I think the one thing that we cannot do is to say no. Throw up our hands and say,
Well,
no.
and that's
You know,
that's
so-
one of the points I wanted us to address before we completely run out of time. It's that the community blames entities because I think sometimes we don't feel, I mean, I can't go into a house or I don't know which house needs help.
But sometimes you do.
Sometimes you do.
Well, I know, yeah. But I'm saying it's that connection that hasn't been linked. So what can people do? What do you, as people who are working, whether in changing policies or enforcing policies or directly going into homes and trying to get them back together, or do what's best for the kids? What do you wish the external community would do to assist?
Well, we've talked about some of it already, but it's a partnership.
Yeah.
And the community plays a critical role in terms of supporting children, supporting families, and supporting their neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the success comes when community engages and says, I'm not going to turn a blind eye.
Yeah.
And so they are hearing.
With reporting, for example.
You're hearing that child screaming. You're hearing every day this parent cursing the child. You're hearing swats. You might not know what's happening, but you're hearing that something is off. You might see. You might be either a teacher, you might be a neighbor, you might be a medical practitioner. You're seeing injuries that makes you question whether this child shouldn't have bruises, you know, and the child might tell you, oh, I bucked my head into the door, but you're watching where the bruise is and you're like, something off here. It's not your responsibility to prove that this child is being abused. The law specifies that you just have to suspect, you know, so err on the side of caution and say, I will make the call. And say, look, I don't know if something's happening. It just crawls my blood every time I hear it. Just check for me. Just going to check, make sure that that child is okay. That's the first responsibility of the community, to report.
Yeah.
If you suspect, like I said, you don't have to prove it. You know, and then as we penetrate, we talked about the mentorship in terms of you have children in your community, you know, talk with them, interact with them. You know, you can give, you can sponsor children in terms of their educational costs. As we talk about the issues of poverty, some families are struggling and they need that little extra help. And we talk about, you know, how do you provide opportunities in terms of jobs for those families so that they can provide for their children. And we talk about the business sector even providing jobs for children to give them those opportunities for them to break the cycle of poverty.
And signing up for foster care and respite care. And
yes, thank you. We recognize that children, in terms of connection, are best served within a family setting. It's a smaller setting where you can recognize their needs, recognize the pain that the trauma has caused, and help that child towards healing. And opening your home to that child can be the difference that that child needs in terms of helping them form those connections and to heal. So definitely become a foster parent and to partner with us. For the children that have permanency plans of adoption, you can become an adoptive parent to say, okay, I don't know if my heart can handle only having them temporarily. When everything is settled and this child needs a permanent home, I'm willing to be that permanent home for the child. And to help people understand the difference between foster care and adoption. Foster care is providing temporary care. You're saying, I'm willing to help the child, but I'm also willing to help the family. I realize that they're going through a difficult circumstances. The family needs reorientation of their role as a parent, to learn parenting techniques, to go through counseling, to deal with anger management. And while they're doing those interventions, I'm willing to help the child, provide a safe space for the child, and I'm willing to help that child and parent reconnect. And I'm even willing to help that parent understand what safety is and how to provide a safe place for a child. So those are foster parents.
It's temporary.
It's temporary. We also have respite foster parents, and these are people who come in and say, you know, I don't know if I can take them permanently in my home because of my own limitations, but for the Christmas, for Easter, for the summer, for weekends, I'm willing to give them a little break from the residential facility that they're at and let them experience community life, let them experience Belize, and let them realize that they can hope, they can dream. There's more than where they live, and you're exposing them to what's healthy too. And then, of course, like I said, adoption.
All right.
For
the NCFC, we still want to see more mandatory reporting. There is a mandatory reporting regulations. And the thing is, as parents, we have a moral obligation. And as duty bearers, we have a legal obligation.
Actually, parents have a mandatory obligation.
Mandatory.
Only the wider community has a moral obligation.
Moral obligation. But the thing is that we are not reporting, and that is the problem, you know, because we're seeing it. As duty bearers, we're seeing it. And the thing is, we also have to, notwithstanding our limited situations, we have to respond to every single call when there is a call, because wherever there is a call, there is danger. And so we have to respond, we have to do what is it that we have to do. I think sometimes as neighbors, as friends, and so on and so forth, we don't want to rock the boat. Sometimes we have to rock the boat, you know, so we do have that legal responsibility, that moral responsibility, but we have monetary responsibility as well. And as far as I know, it has never been enforced. Again, another piece of regulation.
Because if you knew of the abuse and you didn't report it,
Yeah.
you
The
know,
law
so
says you can be fined and
exactly,
confined.
and confined. So I believe, again, we have a responsibility to ensure that the public, because I know NOBCAN does a lot of education around mandatory reporting
with teachers.
but with teachers, but then I believe that this has to now come into communities and homes, so that people know that this exists.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes people don't know.
Yeah.
And if they don't know, they don't know, no? And so I believe that for us, the advocacy and so will continue.
Yeah.
And we will not give up.
But
Yeah,
I just want to, like how I have this opportunity to thank those community members that have stepped up to the plate,
Yeah.
that have reported, that have come to say, I will help you in terms of fostering, in terms of adopting, mentorship. Those that have stepped up to the plate, I just wanted to say thank you, and we want more people to do that.
Yeah.
Since this case was reported on Friday, Monday, we had clinic at our office in Belize City with the community pouring in to report cases of child abuse. So we could see that it did wake everybody up in terms of their responsibility to report. And we want that people sustain that.
Yeah. That's the most inspiring thing I've heard out of this entire incident. Because while people may be fearful of losing the friendship or the neighborly relationship, they could be saving the child's life. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in.
Can you indulge me 1 second? My daughter read a little speech for me last night, and I asked her permission.
Okay.
If I could just share it, and so she gave me
Go
permission.
ahead. This will close us off for the segment.
Yes. It says, I have a dream. Violence is an angry lion ready to attack on its prey. Another person shot, another person raped, another person robbed. When will it stop? I have a dream that when I put on the news, I will feel encouraged, not hopeless. That when I walk in a park, I have no fear that it will be the last. Let's come together and end violence before violence ends us.
Very nice.
And she's 13.
Wow.
Thank you.
Powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It was and thank you again for coming on the show. That was a wonderful way to close that segment. We are now going to be taking our break, and when we come back, we are going to be joined by Pixie Fairy Cupcakes, and they're going to be telling us about how to decorate and enjoy cupcakes.
That's right. We'll take a break. We'll be back in a few.
entertained.
Welcome.
And we're back. Joining us now is Adrienne Young, who is the owner of Pixie Fairy Cupcakes. Hi. And we are going to be talking about the delicious spread that's right in front of us. And you're going to be showing us how to decorate some cupcakes. So
yes.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, so we've been doing a foodie tour that includes recipes and lets people know about the different businesses that exist. We know that you do offer cupcakes for sale, so people don't have to do all this work on their own.
No, they don't. We do the hard stuff. Well, the easy things, the fun things.
Yeah.
You get to eat the other fun thing. Eat it.
And you literally take what would be like a regular dish and make a cupcake version of it.
Yes.
So give me some examples.
Okay, so my business is basically more on the gourmet side. I started out with just cupcakes. I do cakes now, more gourmet as well. But realizing in Belize, you know, there's the market for everything, and finding your niche is always important. So one of the things that I find so much fun in doing is creating unique stuff. You know, so, and I always think that doing something should be fun, shouldn't be work. So, you know, creating different ideas. I know a few years ago, like 2 years ago, I came up with for Christmas a Rumpopa cupcakes that I brought on a show.
Yes.
And you know, it's just basically taking ideas like that and putting it into a cupcake.
Yeah.
You know, I have cocktail cupcakes that are alcohol infused, you know, margaritas, pina coladas, Guinness and pretzel, stuff like that. So it's just looking at different things that can be transformed into a cupcake to make it a unique experience for a customer.
What's your top seller?
Snicker cupcakes.
Oh.
It's been one of my cupcakes I've been in business for about 6.5 years now.
Yeah.
And that has always been one of the top cupcakes that people buy. Snicker cupcakes.
What's the craziest or most the craziest experimental cupcake you've ever done?
Craziest one, I'd say, there's a few, but I'd say I'm not a fan of Guinness, but putting Guinness in a cupcake and the frosting, and that's how one of my flavors came about, but it was with pretzels and you know, that salty and that bitter, but the sweetness all complement. I'm like, okay, we can work with this one.
I thought the margarita one would be hard because that's like tart and a little salty and
what we do is just at the center there's a filling so that you know you get that blast in the middle and it's not too overwhelming in the entire cupcake.
Like a shot of tequila in the middle or something?
Yeah, it's like the actual margarita in a filling kind, like it's a thick glaze of margarita kind of thing.
Dangerous. That sounds like right up Gavin's alley. I know what I'll get you for your birthday. I have a whole year to prepare. Okay, so since people can order through you, you're on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
But we're going to talk about doing just some decorations.
Yeah, we're going to talk. And what I'm going to do is we're going to do decorating some cupcakes, and I'm just going to show you guys how fun it is.
Yes.
No, cupcake decorating should be fun, and it should be, there's no right or wrong way with decorating gourmet cupcakes. It's what you feel like and what you like.
So I guess the only wrong thing is don't go off of the cupcake because it's pointless.
I was gonna run with that. Like, no matter if I want to decorate a cupcake, it might be a mess. But you can say there's no
no, there's no rules. I mean, if you're doing it for yourself, you know, you can't give somebody that. But that's why I'm here. But you know, for yourself, it should be fun. And so we have all these toppings, and you know, whatever you like, that's what I cater to my customers. Is whatever they like, we do. I don't care if it's a weird what they ask for.
Yeah.
If that's what they like, I'm gonna make it for them.
So what kind of cupcakes do we have here?
Okay, so we have vanilla, we have marble, red velvet, and chocolate. And then we have chocolate and cream cheese frosting. So what I'm gonna do now is we have our decorating bags, and I already placed in a tip.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just decorate a few of them.
Yeah.
Put on, and then I'm gonna do some, and I'm gonna have you guys try one each.
Okay.
And then you guys could put your toppings and just have fun with it.
All right, let's see.
And I love the platter for the toppings. Like, I could just take this alone. I'm going to eat.
No, I would eat the whole table, like, just as it is right now. I would eat the frosting.
I'd squeeze some caramel.
So this one is chocolate frosting.
Okay.
This one is chocolate buttercream.
Okay.
And for gourmet, it's usually a lot of chocolate. Besides, like, the alcohol-infused one and the red velvet, it's a lot of chocolate. Snicker, Reese's cupcakes.
We like Snickers though, because the smoothie people said that their bestseller was a Snickers drink too.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like caramel and they like peanuts.
Peanuts, yeah.
Yeah, so that's like one of the combinations. And for that one, I usually make caramel buttercream. So it's like a real Snicker explosion in your mouth.
Okay.
All right. So
Salivating over here.
we're gonna be using, this one is like a basic cupcake tip. It's called
Okay.
1M. And what I do is I just take it and I swirl it up.
That seems easy, but you know, I've learned over
I
the
know.
years that
I've tried.
they do it all the time, so it's just easy for you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put some cream cheese in this one.
So you also, when you're making your cupcakes, you don't want to fill it too high because you got to have space for that
For the
frosting,
topping,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So how high do you put the batter?
It would be like 3/4.
Okay.
Yeah. And for gourmet cupcakes, oftentimes there's a filling inside. Yeah. It depends on what, like
We got a sneak peek of that surprise of the fillings in these.
these ones have no filling.
Oh.
We're having a lot of toppings on these ones. You either have like a lot of toppings or like a really good filling and a very simple top because you don't want to be too much as well, so
Yeah.
that you know
Yeah.
it's too sweet or.
What? Too sweet? I don't. What's that?
So cream cheese usually goes on red velvet, and that tastes it tastes wonderful on chocolate. We're gonna put one more with chocolate here. So I'm just gonna put some examples here, then I'm gonna have you guys try out some over there.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, so
So-
we're gonna do it.
Yeah, you're gonna be doing.
I just
those
know
ones.
Gavin's gonna be better at this.
That,
So-
okay, well,
You know, you have more experience in the kitchen.
there's no wrong way. That's
Yeah.
the first. That's what I'm going with. So no matter how my cupcake comes out.
No, there's no wrong way. And
Look
when
at
you
that.
decorate them, they look nice. You know, you place them on table, you take them to a party, and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
what did you do? Like,
Yeah. It's a
you know,
feast for
looks
your
so
eyes
fancy.
first.
So
Okay.
this one is chocolate. This is chocolate ganache, and I usually use it as a drizzle on top of the cupcakes. So I'm gonna put this one here.
So
Oh.
it's like a moment of silence for chocolate. So how often do you sell? Is it every day? Is it?
I always sell by orders. We
Okay.
don't usually have cupcakes ready for pickup, but we do orders by dozen.
Okay.
And then we usually do like different sales, maybe like every month or every 2 weeks. We do like what would be like, because you have to order one flavor per minimum. So on different sale occasions, we do like 3 different flavors in one package of 6. So you get
Okay.
to try different ones. And it also gives our customer, you know, to try new things that they're not used. They would just get Snicker when they order just a dozen Reese's, and that way they get to taste the different kinds, and maybe they find a new one that they like.
And if I wanted to order, how do I reach you?
Okay, I have a Facebook page. It's Pixie Fair Cupcakes. Instagram, Pixie Fair Cupcakes, and we have a business WhatsApp, which is 631-8823.
Right,
Alright, so these ones have caramel, and this
just
one-
a little drizzle makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, like if you would take it just as this, it's already cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but
But you wouldn't do that.
we like more.
It has to be a little bit extra.
Yeah,
More is more.
yeah, definitely.
I'm so excited just looking at
Okay,
these.
so you're gonna use chocolate or cream cheese? Which one are you gonna start
You
with?
guys decide.
Let me get the cream cheese from
Okay,
over
here
here.
you go. And
All right, so
I
we're
guess,
gonna
Gavin, you can use the chocolate.
we're gonna see
And
how easy this really
What
is.
you're gonna do
Yes.
is you're gonna hold it here, where this little part is. You're gonna turn it, and right here, you're gonna hold it
and put
Okay.
and put the pressure where this is, right?
Ah.
So you're gonna keep squeezing. Don't be afraid to squeeze it,
Okay.
because that's what. And then you're gonna start at a 90-degree angle, and you're just gonna go and
What's 90? Oh, yeah, up.
and take it around.
Start from the middle or start from the edge?
Start from the edge.
All right.
All right. So,
Let's see, yeah, and then go around, and then up, and center. Yeah.
Like this? Not bad.
Not bad,
First
not
one.
bad. No, you got very good.
woohoo! Okay.
Try chocolate on chocolate.
Actually, takes a bit more
Yeah.
muscle than I
yeah,
thought.
I was
I was
afraid.
like-
It does.
I was like, oh, this is gonna be easy. Then it's a lot of pressure. All right.
Literally a
So-
lot of pressure.
One more of these. There we
You
go.
guys are doing awesome. Yeah, take
Alright,
it to the middle.
You need an assistant baker? I
Yeah.
guess.
Okay. Well, that one has like a little funny. You
So what
just
you
get
do
that
is you
there.
get the pressure and you let go of the pressure and push down a little, and that will stop that from happening.
Oh, okay. I thought that was the fix it. Okay, so I got my red velvet and chocolate, and then what am I gonna
You
use?
can put chocolate grape
I'm just
drizzle
gonna
if
have
you
like
like.
a chocolate explosion and
You
just put
go
chocolate
ahead. I'm
everywhere.
gonna do the double. Let's see what we can
Let's
do.
try this. Let's do a drizzle.
There you go. See, cupcakes about being creative. Look at that.
Oh, you
Using
got
your
two?
creativity.
Oh gosh.
Alrighty.
Okay, it didn't work again, but. All right.
And the fun thing is,
My
the toppings-
favorite. You said this is a Belizean favorite. I
squeeze.
definitely.
Yeah, caramel is.
And squeeze.
You,
There we go.
this. It looks easy, but these bags are not easy to
Yeah,
squeeze.
no, just take some muscle.
I need 2 hands.
All right, and then this one gets
Look
some
at
too.
you. Look at that caramel go.
Okay, I just do a lot of caramel because I love it, but let me.
Same. I love caramel.
And then
I
this
don't
one
like much
gets some.
sweet things, but I love caramel.
You
You
don't,
don't like
like
sweet
sweet things. You make cupcakes for
I
a
know how all of
living.
them taste, and I am aware, but I don't really eat cupcakes.
Ah, see that like. Well,
That's just that's not normal. I'm kidding. All right.
So let me get some of this cream
Yeah,
cheese.
and
I'll-
remember,
I'll
guys,
finish
have
these last
toppings
two.
to go crazy with them. You don't have to put one.
Okay, that was.
All right.
wrong way of holding it, but you're
You're
doing
not
great.
90 degrees.
Oh, yeah, you're
You're
right.
like 40. I don't know, whatever.
All right.
All
Yeah,
right.
90 degrees. Yeah.
You
there
guys could be the one that takes cupcakes to the parties after this.
Probably not. I'll probably order it from you. I do love baking, but
some
it's the
caramel.
decorating part that I've never really liked.
And that's my favorite part.
I think you have to have like a natural.
go. Just
Look at
patience.
you
And
guys
creativity.
doing great.
The
There
only
we go.
problem is. Oh,
You got that drizzle down pat.
It took a lot of practice.
A little cherry.
And I will. let's just-
What is this?
Crumble this.
That's peanuts.
That's just oh.
I'm just crumbling this one on top.
All
Cookie
right.
blast.
Yeah.
So we're just showing you how you can definitely
Make your own cupcakes and have fun with it.
at home. And you know, I mean, I know parents always worry about how messy the kitchen's gonna be, but imagine how excited the kids would be to make one of these
Yeah, for sure.
creations. Do you have kids in your family that you do this with?
Yes, I have my niece and my nephews. Sometimes I do Christmas cookies with them. It all depends. My little niece loves baking already. She's only 7.
All right, this one. Don't.
That's it.
You have to turn.
Yep. Put the pressure. There you go.
I just made it look.
That's like a aura blast.
Yes.
A little bit more caramel, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm done. How do you not go over the top? Because now I'm like, oh, but you know, maybe they need a little chocolate chip on this one.
Okay, for personal, yeah, you can't go over the top. It's whatever you like. But for like me and selling purposes, you know, I do something like
Naturally.
this. That's just like,
Let's put some nuts.
that one looks like a little Oreo cupcake. That one looks like a cookie.
Yeah.
This one looks like a little caramel popcorn. This one looks, it's red velvet with cream cheese and a little caramel.
I even forgot what flavor the cupcakes are underneath. I'm just like more.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
what I got. There we go.
Ta-da!
Look at
We
them.
did it.
Like, you guys did that.
Right?
Right? And you know, that's the fun thing, you know, you get to see, you get to create your little cupcake.
That would be what
This
the professional
one.
does. It would be nice.
This one I'm kind
Somehow lost its shape along the way. Let me see yours.
That one looks wonderful.
All right, no. So it's a cupcake competition. Adriani, you pick the best
Why you gotta
dressed
put this
one
pressure on me?
because we just need to kick it up a notch.
Right?
All right.
Okay. Well, I might as well-
I noticed you have a bit of a Hershey affinity there, right?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
For me to pick a best cupcake, you gotta give me a storyline.
All right. No, you got to pick one, like
Pick
the
one.
best one.
No, pick your best cupcake and
No,
tell me your
pick
storyline.
one.
I need
No.
to know the backstory.
Yeah, let's go.
There has to be a backstory.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
when you're making a cupcake.
Well, you go first, Mr. Yes.
All right. So I'm going to choose this one.
No, what's your backstory?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
The backstory behind this cupcake is I envisioned a cupcake that had all the elements that I like, which are chocolate, I like the vanilla, wanted caramel, and then you get a bit of texture, you get that extra sweetness with the caramel, so that when you have every single bite is like different, all the different elements in one. So you get texture, sweetness, a little bit of salty, and that's why I'm choosing this one.
Wonderful.
There we go.
Crushers. Oh, man. Jeez. Okay.
All your
So
idea.
I'm going to go with this one, right? My idea. Okay. So this is for all my fellow indecisive people out there. And if you have a sweet tooth, you look at all the sweets, you're like, I don't know where to start. Well, I did the red velvet because that's going to be your chocolate, but it has a bit of fun color, cream cheese. It has both chocolate ganache and caramel. And you don't have to choose between chocolate chip or Oreo because it has both. So this is for indecisive people. How's my storyline?
That's good.
Ah! I'm hearing your heart beating now.
And there's a tie. Why? I feel like this one is very creative and that one has a lot with technique.
Okay.
So I think you
I'm
both
good
win.
with that.
I would put that one on my shelf and I'd put this one for, like if someone came for a special order, I'll let you make it.
Okay. And based on your indecisiveness, I think you win this cupcake. All
I will
right.
definitely.
So there you have it. You want to get your Pixie Fairy cupcakes, just find Adriana. She's online. She's on Facebook. She's on Instagram. I know you have your regular specials, and of course you can do special orders for both cupcakes and cakes.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing a bit of fun this morning.
You are most welcome and it's a pleasure to be here as always.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take that break. When we come back, you don't want to miss it. Special Belizean rates at Ian Anderson's Caves branch. We'll get all the details in the next part of the show. Stay tuned. And we're back, and we're moving into our final conversation for today. And as we promised, we have quite a bit of information about Ian Anderson's Caves Branch Adventure Company and Jungle Lodge. We have with us on set to tell us more about what they've been doing, what they have to offer, Karen Garbutt, who is the travel specialist. We have in the middle Rhoda Gill, who's the corporate service manager. And on the end, we have Carlos Hernandez, who's the tour guide manager. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we pulled you out of the jungle to come tell us all about what you guys have been doing, right? So let's just start off with a bit of history. Caves Branch, as most people know it, has been around for quite a while. Let's talk about that history.
Yeah, it's been around for more than 25 years.
Yeah.
It was started by Ian Anderson, and his love for Belize. He fell in love with the country. He started exploring, and he discovered these phenomenal adventure tours that are so unique and so special to Belize. And out of that was born Caves Branch as a camping ground, which has now become an adventure company and a jungle lodge.
And that's a distinct difference that you have, which is you started with like the adventure component first.
Yeah, the
and
raw
it was just like it was easier
adventure.
to stay where you need to do the adventure, and that's how it grew.
Yeah, I always like to say that you come for these amazing adventure tours that are life-changing, literally, and we give you a great place to stay in the jungle. That's just a little concept.
Yeah. So there's the cave system. Can we talk about some of the adventure tours that are available?
Sure. So unique to Belize is a 300-foot rappel, which is called the Black Hole Drop. If you've never done it, this is something you've got to do.
Yeah.
Another thing is the Waterfall Cave Adventure. It's a total of 6 or 7 caves, waterfalls inside one cave. You get to challenge yourself, climb up each one, and then jump back down into the pools. It's super amazing. It's the best thing you've ever done in this country.
Yeah.
Promise you.
Yeah.
And then of course we've got cave tubing and jungle hikes and bird watching. We're one of the birdiest destinations in the country. We have an amazing team of about 17 or 18 tour guides, licensed by BTB. We run this fantastic show of adventure, and it's something that is very unique. Belize has some amazing and fascinating treasures, and we are lucky enough to have a collection of them.
Nice.
The,
What do you?
sorry, the unique part of our adventures is that they're on Caves Branch property. So we are the only company that actually bring people to these caves or the sinkholes that we have, and that makes it very unique because you know it turns to be more of a private tour because you can only do it if you come through us.
Yeah.
But Belizeans love it. Every time that tour guides will come with their guests, we encourage them to be part of our tour so that they can experience what we do. And they get all excited because usually, you know, they'll go to places where they'll tell them, oh, you know, we're booked, you can't tag along. But here we encourage them to do it. So that they
So
can
they don't have to wait in the parking lot.
No, they don't have to wait at the parking lot. We tell them, and they said, really, can I go? And we're like, of course, man, we like you to go so that next time you bring people here, you can talk about your personal experience. Because people will ask, so what is it all about? And then usually we'll say, well, I don't know, I've never done it before.
Yeah.
So we encourage our tour guides and also drivers that bring the guests to be part of the tour and the adventures that we do. And at the end of the day, their faces are like, wow, you know, like I didn't know this was here. Like I've been missing out. Can I do it again?
Yeah.
And they're like, it's like you treat us really nice. Like you know, we're treated like we're guests. Like you know, like. So that's the feedback that we give them so that encourage them to be part of our tours.
But it's such a great marketing tool too, because they're going to be the ones to have to explain the tours.
Of course.
Talking
And if they have
selling.
that first-hand experience, there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it. So that's our goal, is to encourage them. So that, and they also recommend other tour guides. Is, you know, you should go there, you should do it, and advertise it, and you know what it's all about.
So cave tubing is pretty popular in Belize. What's the difference between the caving at Caves Branch?
The difference is that we do 2 different cave tours that we refer to as tubing. But we have one that is called the River Cave Expedition, which is a full day activity, and it starts at 9 o'clock in the morning and it's done by around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the evening with lunch inside the cave. And it's a combination of tubing and exploring the cave. So it's not just sitting in the tube and someone pulling you
lot
down,
different.
you know, the river like on a lazy ride. It's
Yeah.
actually where you get out of your tubes, you get to explore the chambers where the Mayans did rituals and sacrifices, have lunch in the cave, all these beautiful formations, and it's a combination of this. So that's very unique because
Lunch inside the
it's
cave.
and then the lunch, like you could see
In
the
the
pictures.
cave.
Inside the cave.
You know,
So you
it's
use your headlights to find your
White,
utensils?
white
we
tablecloth.
have we bring little candles and stuff to make it
Yeah.
Nice.
special.
Yeah.
But so that's one of the caves that we offer. So it's called the Footprint Cave. It's amazing, very unique formations inside, plus very unique things that the Mayans left behind. I'm not going to say what it is because it's, you know, you have to go there to experience it, right?
There you go.
It's a bit of history and adventure.
Yes. So
Yes.
history and adventure and lunch in the cave, which is awesome. It's not like
That's a
just-
one-time experience.
Yeah, one-time
It is.
experience. So and then we also have the 7 miles cave tubing, which we call the float.
7 miles?
Seven
miles.
Miles. Okay.
And that starts around the lodge, about half-hour drive from the Caves Branch in a tractor, and then we walk for 2 minutes to the river, and then we go downstream for 7 miles in and out the caves. So that's part of the same cave system as the Blue Hole National Park
Okay.
and the Black Hole Drop rappelling, but that's the ending of the cave system, and it ends at Jaguar Paw. So we actually end up where everybody goes to go
Yeah.
tubing, but we do the caves that are on the property that no one goes. So very quiet,
Yeah.
peaceful, and with a lot of formations, and windows on the sides. Beautiful.
Wow.
Then we get to meet the crowds around Jaguar
That's
Pass.
a long journey. I mean,
It
through
is.
the cave.
It's
I mean,
a-
through the river.
Yeah, it's another full day activity. We
Yeah.
start 9 o'clock and you're back at the lodge around 3:30 in the evening. So amazing because pristine jungle,
Yeah.
you know,
In
a
and
lot
out
of
of
wildlife
caves.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So
The
you
howler
know,
monkeys
Yeah.
waving you
yeah.
by,
And
right?
then we have a short walk, 20 minutes through the jungle, about halfway of that 7 miles. So it's very unique.
Yeah. So what's the feedback you get when people come for these tours?
We get a lot of, you know, the people. What people say is like, you know, this is like a lifetime changing experience.
Yeah.
I've never done anything like this. I've been
Yeah.
to many caves
Yeah.
all over the world, and I've never done something really special and unique like
Yeah.
this adventure. And they also go back to the guides and they say, well, you know, the guides made it extra special.
Yeah.
So it is, you
It's-
know,
it's-
very. It is very pleasant to when they have those feedbacks. And then also Belizeans, when they come, they're like, they don't know. Like, you know, people live in
That's the
Belmopan,
most
Yeah.
important part.
which is
Yeah.
9 miles down the road, right?
Yeah.
And then they
And they
say,
have no clue.
I didn't know all this was here.
No.
Like, there's
Yeah.
someone, like next door,
didn't know.
we always been to the Blue Hole National Park, but we've never been here. And these stories are awesome, are
Stunning,
amazing, and
yeah.
scary a little bit, but, you know, the fun scary, right?
And I was going to say, we get the opportunity of taking people out of their comfort zone,
Yeah.
past it,
Yeah.
and doing something that they never imagined they could do.
Yeah.
Like leaping off of 300 feet. I had trouble doing it. And when I get to meet people who say, I was so scared, but I did it and I couldn't believe I did it.
Yeah.
I got to the bottom, I wanted to do it again. Those are the kind of experiences that we love every day.
Yeah.
We love seeing kids, older people, middle-aged people, active people, not active people, families, everybody enjoying themselves in a different way than the regular vacation experience. You know, when you think vacation, you automatically think, oh, sitting at a beach resort, you know, sipping a margarita and getting a suntan or a massage. This is a totally different experience.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. And when they're leaving, they can't say thank you enough. They're literally, some of them are in tears because it's been a life-changing vacation they never dreamed of.
Yeah.
You know, so for that for us, that's the rewarding part of seeing the looks on their faces of getting to experience this.
And of the adventures and tours that you guys offer, is there one that's like particularly popular or gets like really enthusiastic feedback?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
The
have
waterfall.
we have the waterfall cave.
Waterfall.
It's you know, it's rated as
Oh,
the
that's
most.
a jump to the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that
rated
is
as the most fun adventure tour. You know,
amazing.
where people was like, you know, it's like wow, like.
If
you
you've
know,
never
it's-
done it, you guys need to do it.
So what I hear from you is that it's almost tiered. There's like, okay, your introductory level of adventure, and then you move up, you
Yeah,
level
there's
up,
more
you level
extreme.
up until
Yeah.
you finally get to the Black Rock The rappelling
Black
experience.
hole drop,
Yeah.
yeah.
Black hole drop. Thank you.
Yeah.
So how do you, when you have someone coming in and they're very uncertain of what they want to experience, how do you help them to select what's going to be best for them and their family?
Well, we would ask specific questions. For example, there are some of the tours that we wouldn't recommend to everyone. We think about your health as well. We think about, there are people who are claustrophobic, people who has bad knees. So we take all of these things into consideration while we're selling these tours to them.
Yeah.
I mean, the tours as well, sometimes some of the people can do it. The reason why we ask for it is because we have to let the guys know in advance, because at the same time, we don't want you to miss the experience that we have. So the guides at that time would know what pace to move at with you guys.
Yeah.
So it's still a way of not trying to say no to anyone. And just a little bit further to what Carlos says, we have some Belizeans come and have enjoyed these tours with us, and they're like, when they leave, like, why I can't believe this was here all this while.
Yeah.
And that's the perception we're trying to change. We welcome all Belizeans. We really want Belizeans to come and enjoy, because this is Belizean history. This is Belizean experience, you know. So this is why we're reaching out. We want them to feel welcome. It's not for you to think that it's just a resort where it's for
Just
foreigners and tourists. No. We welcome all people, all Belizeans. We really enjoy when our Belizeans come, because we get really good feedback from them whenever they come and they're looking to leave. Everyone always wants to come back. So.
Yeah.
Have you seen a growth in the Belizeans accessing the tours?
Yes, the last 5 years we've seen a steady growth. 2019 was super fantastic for us.
Good.
It was amazing. We had all kind of groups, friends groups, student groups, parents with their kids, extended families.
Yeah.
It was really nice to see Belizeans coming out and enjoying themselves in a way that we hadn't seen before. Typically, we get the idea and the feedback of, oh no, they'd rather go to Chetumal or even Cancun or Playa. This year, they were actually exploring Belize.
Yeah.
They were going to Hopkins, they were going to Placencia, and they were coming to Caves Branch, and they were having a phenomenal time.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a very important part of what you do. I mean, you're actually located, as you said, 9 miles away. Is it 9?
12 and a half.
12 and a half.
Yeah.
But it's so
Exactly.
close to Belize City. It's even closer to Belmopan. It's close to if you're coming from Tangriga. I think the longest journey is if you're coming from the north.
Yeah.
But so your location is one that's ideal for whether it's just a day trip
That's
or
right.
just a short weekend, a
That's
regular
right.
weekend.
Yeah.
How do you keep the relationship going with the communities around you?
That's a fabulous question. Caves Branch has worked so hard in the community for a number of years. We've even worked with schools, with teachers, policemen, BDF, firemen, parents, youth groups, volunteers, community, village councils, youth councils, so many different areas of the Belizean community. And over the years, we have seen and met some of the most amazing people in Belize. And this year, we want to start a program where we honor some of the unsung heroes, that you would say. We're calling it the Spirit of Belize Award. We are going to pick and choose some of the most outstanding contributors to Belizean culture and history and education. And we're going to do it quarterly. So there's going to be 4 quarterly awards for the year and then 1 big annual.
Oh, wow.
And so we're still working on the dates of when we're going to do the annual one, but
Yeah.
at least we know that we're going to have 5 awards that we're going to be giving away this year. And what that award is going to be is a 2-night stay at Caves Branch,
Yeah.
all costs included, meals and adventure tours.
Adventure tours.
And that's something that we feel is so deserving and undone in
Yeah.
Belize, especially in the tourism industry. So many people want to know their country in an intimate way. And like Karen was saying, typically Belizeans always think that the tourist resorts are only for tourists. It's not for them. It's unaffordable for them.
Yeah.
And another way of giving back to Belizeans is introducing an easy, what we call a Belizean payment plan.
Okay.
And I'll let Karen take that one.
It's basically, we're trying to, like I said, we're really trying to get our Belizeans to come and just enjoy these wonderful experiences that we have to offer. So it's like a stay now, pay later type of plan. So as long as you have like a credit card or a valid debit card as well, You can come and book the reservation with us, call our office or send us an email.
Any time of year.
Any time of the year.
Oh, so
Once
it's
we
not
have-
just in your
We-
slow.
yes, so we don't.
When
we,
you need us.
exactly.
Once we have
It's
availability.
exactly whatever it's availability.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it's
Some
not blackout
seasons-
dates. It's
yeah.
not. We're not targeting Belizeans just for
Exactly.
slow season.
Yeah.
No, it's all through the year. We offer 50% on accommodations for all Belizeans. We offer 50% again on all the signature tours and 20% on meals. We do have a package that we're working on, like a 2-night package, because at the same time we're trying not for, we don't, as much as, yes, you want to get away and go somewhere nice for the weekend. At Caves Ranch, what we really want to do is for you to come and enjoy, really go out on the adventures and experience it. I'm telling you, it's like a one in a lifetime experience. Once you're there, once you have it, you will have the need or feel the need that you need to do another one.
Yeah.
This is how these tours make you feel. Like, it really gets that adventurous side out of you. So, like I said, we do have that promotion going on where it's stay now, pay later.
But pay how much later? I mean,
It's 50% down.
Okay.
First, you will do like the first 50% before before your arrival or upon check-in.
okay.
And then after checkout, you have 4 months to pay the balance of the 50% back.
Okay, but you need a credit card to hold at
Credit
least.
card and a valid debit card
Okay.
as well.
Yeah. So what prompted these ideas? I mean, we got two things happening here, so we got to separate them. One is that you're going to be giving away weekend packages to people who you have. Are they going to be nominated, or are you just going to select them?
We're going to select them.
Okay, and they have to be contributors to the tourism sector
No, to
or
any
across the country.
Teachers, firemen, nurses, doctors, anybody, students. I mean, basically anybody who has contributed and has been deserving
Yeah.
of some kind of recognition
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. And so you're going to do 4 a year and then one on an annual
on
basis.
an annual basis.
So there are lots of people out there. I mean, I can think of quite a few who are. There are so many unsung heroes
We
in this
do.
country.
Yes.
We do.
It's
In
a
so many areas.
Yeah, and it's just people, my favorite kind, who are not looking for any kind of recognition
That's
over what
right.
they do.
Right.
So what if I do want to nominate someone? I want to tell you, hey, I'm not telling you pick them, but just pay attention to what X, Y, and Z is doing in that area.
Well, let's put it this way. Send us your nomination. We would be happy to consider it.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
we don't know everyone.
Yeah. Where did the idea come from? What made you say, hey, let's give free weekends, but to people who really deserve it?
We have had, like I said, great success with inviting Belizeans to Caves Ranch and letting them enjoy. And like I said before, we've worked so many years in the community, and having these visitors come in and enjoy themselves and leave with this look of amazement and fulfillment on their faces kind of left us with a little bit of a void. We wanted to give more. And then we started noticing that teachers were bringing their student groups and nurses were coming with their families and different people in the communities, different professions were coming through. And we decided, you know what? They deserve something. They deserve a treat, some kind of acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And so it was a collective idea. And we decided that this is what we're going to do for 2020.
Great. That's so great to hear. All right, so there you go. So they will accept nominations. Or at least general suggestions. Because people know who, in their communities especially. So that's the first option. That's getting Belizeans an all expense paid.
Pick up their
covered,
ears, kind of sit up a little bit.
experience.
Yeah.
But if you want to pay for it and you want to go with your friends, your family, and loved ones, there's a payment plan
There's a
option.
payment plan.
50% down.
50% down. You have up to 4 months to pay it off. 0 interest on that. 4 months.
Okay.
There is no interest.
So there's a risk here that you're
Yes, there is.
assuming you do. I mean,
It is risky. We've heard some comments already that, oh my God,
Yeah.
Belizeans aren't going to pay. But again, that was another thing that prompted us to do this, because there's a certain stigma that the tourism industry has always been playing with when it comes to the Belizean tourists and your regular tourists, that Belizeans don't know how to travel. They don't know how to stay. They don't know how to enjoy. They don't know how to pay. And we want to get everyone out of that habit.
yeah.
I think it's just a bad idea, and I think it's people have run with that, and it's stuck in their minds, and we want to get them out of it.
Yeah.
We want to get them out of the idea that you don't have to go to Cheddar Mall for Easter.
Yeah.
You can come to Caves Ranch for Easter.
Yeah.
You can come to Caves Ranch for Christmas. You can come to Caves Ranch for a special occasion. You can even come out and enjoy the pool with your family on a Sunday, right? You can have brunch. You can enjoy something that you thought was not for you, that you couldn't afford. And this is another idea that prompted us to open this program, was the good remarks that we've had from the Belizeans. They didn't know this existed, and at 50% off for their rooms, they couldn't afford it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something they never thought was possible.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right. So, is this a short-term promotion? How long is it?
This is a year-long promotion. It's open all through the year,
Okay.
including the peak seasons, which are Easter and Christmas. As long as we have rooms,
Yes.
we have room for you.
Okay. This is I mean, does this include the tours as well? Because
Yes,
if you're
it
going to go
does.
there,
Yes.
you got to
Yes,
do
it
the
does.
tours. Yeah.
And it extends even farther. We have regular 3 to 7 night packages that are
Okay.
all inclusive. They've typically been open only to tourists. We are opening this now and offering this to Belizeans to take advantage of. There are certain dates that will not be as discounted as others, but
Okay.
it's still affordable and accessible for you. And with the payment plan, you now realize that you can do this. And you can stay just like a tourist in your own country.
All right. So everybody's checking the calendar now to see when they're going to book. Gavin's mentally calculating the next free weekend.
Yeah. And please be invited. We would love to have you guys come out.
And you even have, as you said, if it's just for the day, people can pay to use the pool.
can.
They can go and just do a tour.
They can have lunch. They can just do a tour.
Yeah.
Or they can stay overnight.
They can check out the cheese house.
Yes, they can.
The botanical garden.
Somebody said cheese. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we do make 12 different types of cheese on property.
Now, I want to give you a challenge, right? So you're sizing us up for adventure tours now, right? Because that's what you guys do. You're going to help us. We have a day. We're going to figure out. We want to go to Caves Branch. What tours would you recommend for us and why? We'll start with Gavin.
Well, to be honest, I definitely would recommend the Waterfall Cave Expedition.
We'll do the 4-day jungle survivor for you.
That one.
Let's see what that involves first.
Well, the name should speak for itself. Jungle survival.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the waterfall.
Or we can always do the overnight caving expedition as well.
Overnight caving. Where do you sleep?
In the cave.
In the cave on the rock.
In hammocks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
We have a single military hammocks, single person
Okay.
hammocks, and then we sleep at the bottom of the sinkhole at the cave entrance, outside, just on the rock shelter, and we hang our hammocks from trees or the usually trees, the entrance there, and we do our cooking. So we bring everything raw, and you're involved in getting firewood and starting the fire and cutting the vegetables and making dinner.
Yeah.
And then after that, we talk about some of the history and some of the experiences we've had with being in the caves and wildlife at night and stuff like that. And in the morning we get up, and also the guests are involved in breakfast, cooking breakfast, and then with flour tortillas, and then after that we do the exploration of the cave, where you go deep into the cave to explore very secret chambers that the Mayans did their rituals, and lots of skeletal remains and crystallized skulls, and beautiful.
Wow.
But to be able to experience the cave, that's Petroglyph Cave at the Black Hole Drop, at the bottom of the Black Hole Drop. And to be able to experience and to go deep into the cave, you have to do the overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. And
So-
the 4-day survival?
Yeah, that's
extreme.
it's
This sounds like Scouts
yeah.
kind of trip.
we do an introduction to Survivor, which is 4 days in the jungle. We don't bring any food, and then we teach you how to survive. You know, how to build your shelter, rainproof, your lifted bed.
And this is an adventure tour,
This
not
is an
punishment,
adventure.
right?
It's not naked and afraid. There are clothes involved.
Yeah, we make it. It is 4 days surviving, but we make it so it's an introduction to Survivor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we make it fun. So it's not like you're gonna starve to death, because there's a lot of things that you can
You only get to bring your own
you can feed from, right? But it's not having like your 3 meals a day like you normally would have at home.
But that's an adventure in itself.
It is an
Exactly.
adventure in itself.
Really trying out something
Yeah.
unknown and
But
pushing know you come Port Zone.
we already have 2 booked for February.
Do we have Belizeans that do that as well?
We are encouraging Belizeans to be part of it and to be involved in those adventures because
Again, another one of the ideas that Belizeans had in years past was, I'm not going to bush.
yeah.
You can't get me back there.
Yeah.
And this is where slowly we're bringing them out and exposing them to the jungle, to the caves, to the treasures that are in Belize, not just Caves Branch, but in Belize in general.
You know, we have to be exposed because we're you know, all around those surroundings are vegetation.
Yeah.
And you know, people are afraid of snakes, but you can find snakes in your garden, in your house. You know, it's like snake could be everywhere, right?
I was
But
until you mentioned snakes. I was like,
snakes could be everywhere, but you know,
Garden
it doesn't mean that you're gonna go in the jungle, you're gonna get bit by a snake. Like, you know, we do these tours for the past 25 years, and we've been very lucky that no one have ever been bitten by snakes.
By snakes.
We've seen them, you know, but it's not like you go in the jungle, you get bit by a snake.
Yeah,
or, you know.
Some of them do require a bit of fitness, right?
Yes.
I'd imagine
Yes.
if you're going to do the black
Black
hole,
hole.
Yeah.
because that's very high, you'd have to hike that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So people don't know, right? So people will come, Belizeans or foreigners will come to Caves Branch in their mind thinking, I'm gonna go do the black hole drop, for example, right?
Okay.
But maybe they're not fit enough. They're
Yeah.
not physically fit for big hikes
Yeah.
uphill the mountain, and then in their mind they're picturing, I want to do an adventure, but they don't know the you know how physically it is,
Yeah.
right? Challenging.
And it's not just about weight, it's about how much you exercise, because it's actually
it doesn't matter if you're young, you're
endurance.
older, or you're not. It's just your person. If you don't exercise, if you know, so it would be. So what we recommend when we meet these people is like we don't. Sometimes they pre-book their tours, saying I want to do these tours. They come to Caves Branch, and our job is to pretty much look to them and judge them correctly, and we're pretty good at predicting. So we've been trained that we can predict.
How long is the hike up?
We recommend. It's about an hour and a half hike to the top of the mountain, steep.
It's
But-
steep.
It's steep, yeah. But what we do is we recommend. We recommend an easier tour, depending on how many days they're there. So if they're there for like 3 nights or 4 nights, we say start with this adventure tomorrow. Let's do this one tomorrow. It's a good introduction to Caves Branch doing the River Cave Expedition, which involves a little bit of climbing. And people at the end of the day will say, "Oh, that was a little hard, you know, going up into that little chamber there," and then like. And then what is your plan for tomorrow? They say the waterfalls or the black hole. Well, we say that's 15 times harder. And they will go, well, I don't want to do that then.
While the adventure junkies are like, book me, right?
Yeah.
So instead of us telling them you cannot do it, they
They realize it for
they
themselves.
realize it for themselves. And then we recommend the tours that they will enjoy.
So
That's
before
our-
we close off, of course, one of the things we do have to find out about your accommodations. What do you have available? You said very clearly to me in the start, you're not a resort. So what does that mean?
We are not a resort in the style of the mentality that people have of resorts. We don't have the regular amenities. For example, you won't find Wi-Fi in your rooms. You won't find air conditioning the way you're used to having air conditioning in your rooms. All of our rooms, if you notice the pictures, they're wide open to the sights and the sounds of the jungle. They're fully screened, and they're protected against the outside elements, for example, bugs, mosquitoes, that sort of thing. But you get the view and you get the actual essence of the jungle. When you're waking up in the morning and the sun is coming up, you hear every sound, you hear every cricket, you hear every bush crack. And that's your immersion into nature. And that's part of the Caves Branch experience. We have 23 rooms total. We have 13 jungle units, and then we have 10 luxury style tree houses that are perched above the hillside overlooking the river and the lodge. So you do
Do you have
have
any
your
family
choice.
style homes?
Yes, we have 1 and 2 bedroom.
Okay.
The jungle suites that you're looking at right now, those are family suited, that with all of them have bunk beds, and you have a little living room in the front and the main bedroom in the back. Families love it because they get to experience something they never dreamed of.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, wow.
And
So
that is
that
the
view.
view that you
Yeah.
have in the morning.
So we
That
say
is your
we're not a
actual-
resort, but you
gave a
still stay
coffee there
comfortable.
To be here?
I know, right?
We should be here.
Well, next time we do a show, why don't you come out to Caves Branch and do it from there?
There we go.
But you have no Wi-Fi.
We do.
We
Not in
do.
the rooms.
So we do appreciate you coming in. Thank you for sharing with us your efforts in being able to get more Belizeans to explore and to share in the beauty that we do possess. And
Thank you for having
some
us.
people can start their running or their jogging for
Yeah.
the major hikes, or just go for the leisurely waterfall hopping. See, I didn't get my recommendation, but
No,
we'll see.
you're doing the 4-day survival.
Oh, there you go.
So it could be used as punishment.
Well, you've got it for
guys. How
Thank
do
you
we
very
get in
much.
touch
Thank
with
you.
Caves Branch?
Yes.
Email
Okay.
info@cavesbranch.com or our local phone number 610-3451.
Okay. And you can get all the information. Once again, you can stop in for the day, to use the pool, to get a meal, to do a day tour,
Yeah,
and
just call
definitely
us.
take advantage of the Belizean rates that they have all year round. And also the special payment plan. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much for having us.
We're going to go ahead and take our final break, and when we come back, we'll have our wrap up. So stay tuned.
With
we're back.
Another great show.
Yeah, I'm like mentally pulling myself out of the jungle right
Yeah,
now.
I know.
Yeah.
I got so excited listening to about all those tours and rates, and I was like imagining myself right there.
It's like waterfalls. Well, it's cold in here, so
I know.
it sounds cold. But on a hot day, on a Sunday, it would be so perfect to do. But that's, starting off with the first conversation, just in a recap, I think It was a lot to process. I think that we wanted to be able to bring the information directly from the people who deliver them. One, in working on legislation and policies that will help to improve the lives of children, and in coordinating efforts, and also from the human services that, as well. And Gavin, I think, my greatest takeaway is I hear their point in terms of the growth that they've made so far in human resources, but clearly we're still way behind. 20 social workers in this country, child protection officers, so they're actually they're the ones that would intervene in abuse cases, and I don't think anyone has to be an expert to know that is not enough.
Not enough, no.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, about how far we need to go.
Yeah.
Especially considering the amount of reports that we do have versus the amount that even
1,300.
Yeah, 1,300, and that's just reported.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about how early intervention in children who really need it, we've got to do something, and it's critical that we do it quickly because, of course, everybody's talking right now about, the situation like Friday, but can you imagine, thousands more similar situations, and we don't want it to reach a level where we keep seeing it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But I am, on a more optimistic note, I was a bit encouraged at least when we heard that after the aftermath of that, people were pouring in with reports.
I got chills. It was like, yes.
So yeah, at least it sparked something at least, and we hope that the momentum stays.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I'm grateful for that I took away from our first conversation.
And this is where information can be so useful, because I think that was really encouraging to hear, and it just reminds us that we have a role to play. I know we feel helpless because we can't be in every home, and we hate hearing these stories, but pay attention to the children around you, and if you see something suspicious, you don't have to prove it. We have that gut instinct sometimes, or intuition, that tells us something is off. Go ahead and make the report. You may lose a friendship, you may lose that neighborly relationship, you may lose them saying good morning to you, but it doesn't matter if you are going to save the life of that child. So please do your part. There are some of us that are legally mandated to make those reports, and you should know if you work directly with children, if you're in the family, if you're a teacher, if you're a doctor, if you're a social worker. I'm trying to think of who else, but if you work directly with children, you are legally mandated to report that. But for the rest of us, we do have a moral responsibility, because if they can't protect themselves from whatever it is they're going through, then we need to do our part as well.
I know, absolutely.
Yeah.
Moving into our second conversation, on a lighter note, we do want to thank Adriana for coming in and showing us all the delicious ways you can make cupcakes, if you don't want to make cupcakes and you don't want to make a mess in your house, you can always call her and contact Pixie Fairy on her Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
In the break, I tried cupcakes, so I can definitely tell you that they are delicious.
Where's your sugar rush? It hasn't kicked in yet?
No, yeah, for sure.
No, we want to say thank you to her, and we've been doing our foodie tours, kind of just exploring different foods that are available in Belize. Maybe just as we impart that knowledge, we add on our pounds too. But it has been delicious and absolutely worth it. And so we want to thank Adriana. Remember, if you want to get her cupcakes, find her on Facebook or on Instagram. Put in your order. She does specials every now and again, so you can take advantage. And of course, it really just shows us how easy it is to try these things at home, albeit a bit messy. But if we can enjoy it, imagine what your kids will experience if they do it. And speaking of family fun, well, clearly, Caves Branch has a lot to offer.
I know, and I mean, from the different tours to the different amenities that they have in their resort, and the thing, whether you're doing, whether you're there for a day, whether you're there for overnight, whether you do, any of their, extended type of tours, it's all about showing the best of Belize. Probably our biggest attraction is our natural environment, whether it's the sea, whether it's the jungle. Caves Branch offers a great look into a variety of different things that we have to offer, from the jungles to the caves to
Yeah.
the waterfalls, all type of stuff. And of course, they're reaching out to the local community, making it more affordable and more accessible to everybody who wants to come and
Yeah.
enjoy a taste of Belize that a lot of people don't even know about.
You know, kudos to them,
Yeah.
because I know I make an effort to try to go to different places around Belize, and there are a lot of properties that try to accommodate Belizeans, but Caves Branch has done is taking it a step further. They've done two things. One, they have Belizean rates, so you get 50% off. All year round. It's not just in the slow season. So if you want to book something, of course you'll have to book early, because people who are traveling from far would book far in advance. But nonetheless, you get the Belizean rate, and you can get it when you contact them. But now they've also implemented a payment system, and that's pretty unique on its own. So what it means is you have to pay 50% down at the time of booking, and after your stay, you have up to 4 months to finish paying off the balance. I don't know if you can get that anywhere else.
No.
Anywhere else. So that is a great deal for you. And let me tell you something. I think I have always found, even with the kids, it's the experiences that they have that really matters the most. So you do layaway plans for toys, trust me.
Yeah.
Doing a plan for a weekend experience, that's going to be the memories they carry for a lifetime,
Yeah.
longer than that toy can ever exist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking for myself, having been to some of the tours before, it's definitely unforgettable.
Yeah.
And you know, in some cases, as all of them said more than once, life-changing sometimes.
Of course.
So yeah, if you are interested and you want to take, if you want to go, if you want to take your family, your friends, your coworkers, who knows, you know.
Yes, Gavin, you can go on that 4-day survival tour. We'll get a group together here.
Yeah, definitely.
That
go.
was a yes?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. It was a maybe. Yeah, so you want to go to Ian Anderson's Cave Branch.
Yeah.
And check out some of the tours. They've got a wide variety of things for all, you know, ages, fitness levels.
Yeah.
You can find something that suits you, and they're ready and willing to help find what exactly is the right adventure for you.
That's right. And you want to find them and follow them online as well, because they're also introducing this year a give back program. They're going to be finding people in communities across Belize who are contributing in some way to whether it's their community, to their workplace, or working with kids, or they're going to find people who are giving of themselves, and they're going to give them back a weekend treat at Caves Branch. So go ahead and stay in touch with them, see who they're choosing. Maybe you're one of the people who gets nominated and selected, so do find them and follow them.
For sure.
And we're going to wrap up the show now. So remember, if you want to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. Drop me a line at marlene_oye@channel5belize.com. Find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ, and on Instagram at OYE Belize. Remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
And start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind.
And your heart open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.